We just got back from spending the day at the Botanic Gardens up here by me. It was so beautiful. It's one of my favorite places to go. We were celebrating my sister-in-law's birthday. I did get a touch sunburned. As you can see, we are quite lobsterish here. But what I'm actually here to talk to you about is a pretty amazing library haul, if I do say so myself. I was also sent some pretty exciting book mail from Simon and Schuster and from the wonderful people at Wonderkind PR. So let's do the library haul first. Something that I've been wanting to read all year is Claudia Piñero's Elena Knows. I also want to read Cathedrals by Claudia Piñero, but I'm going to start here because this is what my library had. I've been going down a translated fiction sort of fascination this year, and Charco Press specifically has been really on my radar for very high quality, incredible, character driven, yet very complex plots. I really appreciate the balance there. When Rita's body is found hanging in the belfry of the church she devoted herself to, the investigation is swiftly closed. But her mother, Elena, refuses to accept the police's version of what happened, and despite the physical limitations imposed by Elena's illness, she embarks on a journey to call in an old debt in an attempt to unfold and discover what really happened to her daughter. So this seems to take on an element of critiquing the criminal justice system, specifically in Buenos Aires, where this book is set. I'm really looking forward to reading this. Everything I've read from Charco Press in the past has been top notch. The next is Glyph by Ali Smith. I am a big Ali Smith fan as well. Shortly after I lost my father, I discovered her novel called How to Be Both. If you are grieving or you've lost a loved one, I highly recommend that novel. It is a novel, but it's very much rooted in a person's real experience dealing with parent loss. So I'm excited to move on to this. I started her seasonal quartet last year and haven't finished it, but in the meantime, there is this one. I keep seeing this on Book Talk and I'm curious. This is a very different cover than the one I typically see. So you've probably seen this book if you're in the lit fic side of the bookish apps. Glyph explores how and why we endeavor to make a mark on the world. In a time when Western industry wants to reduce us to algorithms and data, something easily categorizable and predictable, Smith shows us why our humanity, our individual complexes, matter more than ever. Ali Smith does an incredible job of taking contemporary topics and turning them into timeless explorations. For example, we have Yesteryear by Carol Claire Burke that's really popular right now, but a lot of the criticism I've been seeing is that she doesn't dive deep enough into what this tradwife obsession and this social media obsession really says about our humanity. But an author who does that really well, again, is Ali Smith. She translates these very topical cultural touch points, but extrapolates it in a way that makes it a much more timeless literature piece. But this one seems to specifically take on AI and everything. So if that's kind of something you're grappling with or thinking about a lot, you may really enjoy reading that book. The next is The Hounding by Kenobi Purvis. My library had a Summerween collection sitting out on right by their reference desk. So I decided to grab this one. I've seen this, of course, around the apps, if you will. It's The Crucible meets the Virgin Suicides in this haunting debut about five sisters in a small village in 18th century England whose neighbors are convinced they're turning into dogs. And then last but not least, we have Seasons of Glass and Iron by Amal El-Motar. I read, what's her other book called? The River Has Roots? Yeah, The River Has Roots. I read that last year, so this is her next book. Very excited. I think it's another collection of short stories. Yes. El-Motar guides us through sharply observed and exquisitely told tales about life as it is, was, and could be. Like a miscellany gathered from other worlds, these stories are told in letters, diary entries, reference materials, and folk tales, all expressed in El-Motar's signature lyrical prose. I love a good short story collection, and I was really impressed with The River Has Roots, so I'm expecting a lot of this one as well. Let me know if you've read any of these. Okay, so now moving on to some book mail that I recently received. The first is Laura Lekos, All the Little Ways. This is a debut about two women who meet each other for the first time and tackle pregnancy together when something really traumatic happens and they have to grapple with their newfound motherhood and this thing that has happened. What I was really intrigued by is that this is a debut novel, which I'm always on the lookout for a good debut. This kind of seems to straddle the lines between literary fiction, character-driven storytelling, some more modern contemporary popular fiction elements. So this was very kindly sent to me by the wonderful folks at Wonderkind PR. This was just published on June 9th. And this is, again, Laura Lekos's debut novel. It's published by Gallery Books, which is a imprint of Simon and Schuster. So definitely keep an eye out for this if you like stories that center female friendships, women navigating things like motherhood and family life. I might take that one with me on my summer trip this upcoming July. The next that Simon and Schuster so graciously sent me was Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. This was published last year, but they sent me the book. They want me to read it and put it out on my channels, and I am absolutely excited to because I've actually been seeing it crop up on a lot of people's like TBR piles and like most anticipated reads of the year. This is a love story kind of told with the pacing of a thriller, but Beth and her husband Frank are happily married, but when her brother-in-law shoots a dog going after a sheep, the shooting of this dog puts her back in touch with this guy who she loved in high school. And he's moved back to town. He's a widower. He's got a young son. And incidentally, Beth has also lost a child. So they're kind of put together because of these very bizarre life circumstances. It sounds like a very emotional story, definitely a romance with a twist. And while I don't always seek out romance novels, in fact, I tend not to unless it's like an incidental part of the book, this just sounded really good, and I've heard a lot of good things about this one. It was also a Reese's Book Club pick, which, again, I don't always read, but sometimes the books that I've chosen in the past from hers have been pretty decent. So I'm excited to see how that goes. The next is Peregrine Hill by Nina de Gramont. This is a novel set in Gilded Age New York about a desperate mother and a headstrong daughter navigating the world built on men's appetites and women's silence. Yes. Gilded Age era in the United States is a very fascinating period of history for me because it kind of reminds me of the times we're living in now. Large disparity between the wealthy and the poor. We had massive like human rights issues happening because of poverty in cities, and at the same time the wealthy, these robber barons, these industry titans were getting richer and richer, and it created a very tense society and culture. So when I saw that this novel was set in that time period, I absolutely was like, yes, please send that to me. I will happily read this. It's not too long either. This comes in at just 300 pages. Last and certainly not least, this book sounded so fascinating. This is Sky Full of Elephants by Sibo Campbell. And this novel imagines a world that is not centered on whiteness, told from a Black perspective. What would that look like if there were no white people on this planet? One day, a cataclysmic event occurs. All of the white people in America walk into the nearest body of water and drown. A year later, Charlie Brunton is a Black man living in an entirely new world. Having served his time in prison for a wrongful conviction, he's now a professor of electric and solar powered systems at Howard University when he receives a call from his estranged daughter, Sydney, setting off a chain of events that will change both of their lives. And they embark on a journey across a truly post racial America in search for answers. I don't know, the premise of this just sounded very interesting. I feel like as a white person, this is an interesting opportunity to look at the perspective of someone else who, lives in a society that is, for all intents and purposes, built for the white existence. And so this sounded extremely compelling. I'm adding this to the top of my TBR for the fall as well. Thank you so much, Simon and Schuster, for sending me those 3 books. Thank you so much for watching. This was kind of a quick check-in, but if you don't follow me on Substack, I do also post about books over there, and that I do like slightly more literary creative lifestyle content, how to integrate reading into your lifestyle. I do book lists, book reviews, things like that. So just wanted to give a plug for that. If Substack is also an app you enjoy spending time on, I've got, Substack content that I'm also trying to ramp up. So thank you for hanging out with me again today. Let me know what you're reading. What should I be keeping my eye out for in the next month? But as for today, I'm going to keep it I'm going to keep it here. I hope your summer is going well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.